Hi, my name is Chasey Blach, and I'm going to be introducing my research study, which is Sports, a study of the organization and benefits of sports in the United States and Germany pre and post COVID. I conducted this research with two students from the University of Siegen, Mona and Katherine, and I had help from my advisor, Michelle Mann. The sports systems in the United States of America and Germany are diverse, but are the athletes and coaches. Germany emphasizes academics over athletics, while the United States places a higher emphasis on athletics. This is due to the fact that in the United States, athletics are often school affiliated, with some clubs being used by athletes to play. At the collegiate level, student athletes can compete based on athletic scholarship. However, sports in Germany are only club affiliated. Universities do not offer sports or scholarships to athletes that play sports. Both countries do have professional sport leagues. The purpose of this study investigates the similarities between qualities of athletes and coaches from each country from a coach's perspective. The high school coaches from the United States and the club coaches from Germany were asked a panel of questions through a survey about their coaching education, athletes, and their knowledge of sports in other countries. The results showed that student athletes from both countries participated in sports for physical activity, competitiveness, and the friendships made through competition. Sports gave these students a purpose. A positive correlation between academic success and athletic success was seen. The answers from coaches stated that when a student athlete worked hard in the classroom, the hard work was also seen in the court or field. Coaches from Germany knew more about American sports, while the American coaches did not know as much about the system of sports in Germany. This is due to the fact that American sports are televised more internationally than German sports. The structure of the sports system varies between the countries, but based on the research conducted, the reasons coaches and athletes participate in them does not. My team and I's reason for research is that we wanted to focus on the mindset of coaches and athletes in both countries and see how much they knew about the overall sports systems, their reasons for participating, and how has impacted each country. So, what we focused mainly on is the differences and similarities in the sports systems, how sport involvement differs from a coaching perspective of importance. So, how we went about this for our procedures is we created interview questions. So, we sent a survey that is completely anonymous and confidential to 15 coaches, and we received 11 responses from that. And then afterwards, we compared and contrasted answers given by the coaches. And then to analyze them, we determined the most common responses, and then we are now presenting our findings. So, up next, we are going to talk about the sports systems in both Germany and the US. In the literature review, we are looking at the origin of school sports in both Germany and America. German sports clubs are the main providers for mass sport in this country. They are beneficial to the individuals that participate in sports, and sports clubs are also beneficial to the population since they produce public goods such as national sporting success, which creates community pride. Sports clubs, not just in Germany, are a value to society because of positive things such as youth promotion, social integration, crime prevention, and health. This happens through the promotion of young athletes in clubs, which helps them become squad athletes. German sports clubs put high value on trying to convey values such as fair play and tolerance. The goals of these clubs is to offer an affordable sports supply through fair membership and admission fees. In America, sports are offered through schools as well as clubs. The majority of athletes compete through their junior high and high school. However, there have been a growing number of athletes participating in club sports. This is because most higher population schools only allow a certain number of athletes to participate on their top teams. Athletes have started to become more specialized in a specific sport, only participating in one, maybe two sports year round. The involvement in sports does have positive benefits: favorable academic outcomes, reduced delinquency, higher graduation rates, and self esteem gains. So, the first question we really asked ourselves is why sports are so important. For physical health benefits, you have an improved joint flexibility, lower risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, deeper sleep, a stronger immune system, and lower risk of certain cancers. The mental health benefits are improving your mood and concentration, boosting your self confidence, and then reducing anxiety and depression. This is especially common among teenagers. Other benefits: you learn to work as a team with other people. It provides you with personal values. You're less likely to feel isolated. And with that, you develop friendship and camaraderie. You also develop leadership skills and appreciation of different abilities, social development skills, self discipline, and tolerance. Now I'm going to talk about the sports systems between the United States and Germany. So, starting out with the United States, kids typically start playing sports or participating in them in early elementary school and then usually continue throughout their lifetime. So, when things usually start getting pretty serious competitively is in junior high and then through high school, college, and then if the athlete is good enough, they go on to play professional sports. So high schools or sports started out as only school affiliated, and in the more recent years, we've moved to more clubs and specialization. So athletes only playing one or two sports, things like that. And here, the clubs are private, so they're paid for by the athletes and or their parents and the club that they're participating in. And then PE classes in the United States are required up until the ninth grade. So your freshman year here, you are required to take a PE class, but after that, they don't require you to take any more. And this usually has no sport affiliation, so it's mostly for movement and activity. While in Germany, sports have no school affiliation, so not with public or university. They run a club only system and it is offered to everyone. There are cheap fees and things like that involved, so it's very available. The German Olympic Sports Confederation, which was founded in 2006, they're the main overarching factor. They run most of their clubs and stuff. So there's 27 million memberships in about 90,000 clubs. And in those 27 million, there's about 10 million children who participate. They are the largest independent entity responsible for assistance to children and young people. They also have professional sport clubs, and there are actually some private schools which are kind of, or I guess, for sports. They don't, they're not school affiliated, but that's why those kids are there. And then PE classes in Germany are used for sports and to learn more about them, and then they're carried on throughout school up until they graduate. The sports systems in the United States and Germany actually do have some similarities. So the overall focus of the programs in both countries have changed. They have moved from a more traditional focus of purely competitive sports and have replaced them by a focus on health through sports. The public support for both professional sports in Germany and the United States has become bigger. More US sports clubs are more of a private sector. However, they have become more televised and things like that. And the professional sports in both countries, the athletes are considered heroes and role models. And the televised and international stage is very important to them because this is where they draw awareness to things like civil rights issues and other things like that. Next up, we are going to talk about the interview questions and response analysis. For our coach interview, as I stated earlier, we sent the survey to 15 coaches and we received 11 responses. And here are the questions that we asked them. Here are some of the similar responses that we received throughout our survey. So for question number 1, the most common answers were knowledgeable, trustworthy, compassionate, and adaptable. For question number 2, we had self-evaluation, the fundamentals of the specific sport, experience playing that sport, and the ability to teach. Next up, we have more successful academically, the better the athlete. One person responded with, this is the case for girls, not necessarily for boys. And from my own personal experience, I believe this to be true. But overall, the more academically successful an athlete is, the better they typically are as an athlete. For question number 4, they focus mainly on fundamentals of sport during their practice, and practices typically last between 1.5 to 2 hours long. For the reason that athletes participate in sports is because of their friends, community involvement, competitive drive, and simply for physical activity. For question number 6, how physical education courses correspond with sports practice depends on the physical education teacher. So here in the United States, in your freshman year of high school, you are required to take like a general overall PE class, and then after that, you are allowed to choose different PE courses, such as like weights training, movement, stretching, things like that. And then next up, we have basic knowledge of sports working in each country's from the other country's coach. So this depended on not a lot of coaches from the United States knew a lot about the sports from Germany, but the German coaches actually knew more about our sports. For question number 8, the things that have changed in sports over the last 30 years, there are new rules, the speed of the game has changed, and there's more sport specialization from athletes. In the US, colleges recruit mostly out of clubs and not so much out of high schools anymore because the clubs are getting bigger and the higher athletes or the better athletes are getting to play more club sports. So, since Germany does not have any college sports, the recruitment process comes from different countries, so the United States mainly, and the recruit to professional clubs and teams from those clubs in Germany. So they either go from playing directly from a club sport at the high school age to a professional club team or like an amateur club, things like that. And then the clubs in the United States are becoming a bigger thing. So they're more money oriented than they are in Germany. And more high school athletes are turning to clubs instead of school teams. And actually, COVID has had a huge impact, which is mostly negative for everyone. So there's stronger restrictions and regulations within the sports, playing with masks and having teams quarantine if someone tests positive, especially in college. The athletes are getting tested 72 hours before competition. And then there's not as much money made from games. So they're having either limited fans, no fans. So the money that is being made from games is not as much, which is causing teams to either have to drop their programs or they are limited on how much they can do, things like that. For our project results, we found that while the systems differ in the two countries, the reason that student athletes compete, coach education and knowledge, and COVID-19 impact is the same for both the United States and Germany. And then here is my research poster that I created. As you can see, most of everything that I put on here is in my presentation. And so for my findings, I actually used sample responses, so one from the United States coaches and then one from Germany. And they actually wrote their answers in German, so I Google translated them into English. And that I think is all. So my references are here at the bottom and then on this next page, as you can see. So thank you for taking your time to listen to this, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.